listen to how I thought my grandmother to read about how a grandmother determination makes a young girl teach her how to read. When I was a girl of about 12, I used to stay in a village in North Karnataka with my grandparents. Those days the transport system was not very good, so we used to get the morning paper only in the afternoon. Okay, the weekly magazines used to come on day late. All of us would wait angrily for the bus, which used to come with the papers, weekly magazines, and the post. At the at that time, Triveni was a very popular writer in the Kannada language. She was a wonderful writer. Her style was easy to read and very convincing. Her story usefully dealt with complex physiological problems in the lives of ordinary peoples and were always very interesting. Unfortunately, of Karnataka literature, she died very young. Even now, after 14 years, people continues to appreciate her novel. One of her novels, called Kashi Yatra, was appraising a serial in the Kannada weekly Karamvira. Then it is the story of an old lady and her ardent desire to go to Kashi or Varanasi. Most Hindus believe that going to Kashi and worshipping Lord Vishwara is the unlimited punya. This old lady also believed in this and her struggles to go there. Love, but there was no money for the wedding. In the end, of old lady gives away all her savings without going to Kashi. Look at here. ये रहा यहाँ काशी का पिक्चर्स दिया गया है. ये है गंगा रिवर्स एंड ये है उसके किनारा. She said the happiness of the orphan girl is more important than worship Lord Vishwara or Kasi. My grandmother Kristika never went to school, so she could not read. Every Wednesday the magazines would come and I would read the next episode of the story to her. During that time she would forget all her work and listen with the great concentrations. Later she could repeat the entire text by heart. My grandmother too never went to Kashi. She identified herself with the novel and photographist. So more than anybody else, she was the one most interested in knowing what happened next in the story and used to insist that I read the serial out to her. After hearing what happened next in Kashi Yatra, she would join her friends at the temple courtyard where we children would also get together to play hide and seek. She would discusses the latest episode with her friends. At that time, I never understood why there was so much of a debate about the story. Once I went for a wedding with my cousins to the neighboring village. In these days, a wedding was a great event. We children enjoyed ourselves thoroughly. We would play in industries serving the freedoms because all the elders were busy. I want a couple of days, but indeed up staying there for a week. When I come back to my village, I saw my grandmother in tears. I was surprised for I had never seen her cry, even in the most difficult situations. What had happened? I was worried. Ava, is everything alright? Are you okay? I used to call her Ava, which means mother in the Kannada spoken in North Karnataka. She but did not reply. I did not understand and forget about in the night. After dinner, we were sleeping in the open terrace of the house. It was a summer night, and there was a full moon. Ava come and sat next to me. Her African hands touched my forehead. I realized she wanted to speak. I asked her, "What is the matter?" When I was a young girl, I lost my mother. There was nobody to look after and guide me. My mother was a very busy. My mother was a busy man and got married again. In these days, people never considers education stages for girls. So I never went to school. I got married very young and had children. I come very busy later. I had grandchildren and always feel so much happiness in cooking and feeding all of you. At times I used to regret not go to school, and so I made sure that my children and grandchildren studies well. Next, I could not understand why my 62 years old grandmother was telling me, a 12 years old, the story of her life in the middle of the night. But I knew I love her instantly, and there had to be some reasons why she was taking me to. I looked at her face. It was unhappy and her eyes very filled with tears. She was a good looking lady. She was a good looking lady who was usually always smiling. Even today, I cannot forget the worried expressions and her face. I leaned forward and her held her hand. Ava, don't cry. What is the matter? Can I help you in any way? Yes, I need your help. You know, when you were all away, Karambira comes as usual. I opened the magazines. I show the pictures. I could not understand why my 62 years old grandmother was telling me, a 12-year-old, the story of her life in the middle of the night. But I know I loved her immensely, and there had to be some reasons why we was taking me. I looked at her face. It was unhappy and her eyes were filled with tears. She was a good-looking lady who was usually always smiling. Even today, I cannot forget the worried expressions on her face. I leaned forward and held her hand. Ava, don't cry. What is the matter? Can I help you in any way? Yes, I need your help. You know, when you were away, Karamvira comes as usual. I opened the magazines. I show the pictures that accompanies the story of Kasi Yatra. I could not understand anything that was written. Many times I rubbed my hands over the page, wishing they could understand what was written. But I knew it was not possible. If only I was educated enough. I waited a little for you to return. I felt you would come early and read for me. I even thought of going to the village and asking you to read for me. I could have asked somebody in this village, but I was too embarrassed to do so. I felt so very dependent and helpless. We are well off, but what use is money when I cannot be independent? I did not know what to answer. Where Ava continued, I have decided I want to learn the Kannada alphabet from tomorrow onwards. I will work very hard. I will keep Saraswati Puja day during Dussehra as the deadline that day. I have decided want to learn the Kannada alphabet from tomorrow onwards. I will work very hard. I keep Saraswati Puja day during Daseras as the deadline that day. I should be able to read a novel on my own. I want to be independent. I saw the determination on her face, yet I looked at her Ava. At this age of 62, you want to learn the alphabet. All your hair is grey, your hands are wrinkled, you wear spectacles, and you work so much in the kitchens. Childlessly, I made fun of the old lady, but she just smiled. For a good case, if you are determined, you can cover over summer and obstacles. I will work harder than anybody, but I will do not do it for learning. There is no age bar. The next day onwards, I started my tuitions. Ava was a wonderful student and announced of homework she did was amazing. She would read, repeat, write, and recite. I was her only teacher and she was my first student. Little did I know then that one day would become a teacher in computer science and take hundreds of students. The Dasera festival come as usual. Secretly, I bought Kashi Yatra, which had been punished as novel. For a good case, if you are determined, you can overcome and any obstacle. I will work harder than anybody, but I will do it for learning. There is no age bar. The next day onwards, I started my tuitions. Ava was a wonderful student at the annals of homework she did was amazing. She would read, repeat, write, and recite. I was her only teacher and she was my first student. Little did I knew that then that once a day would become a teacher in computer science and take hundreds of students. The Dasera festival come as usually secretly. I bought Kashi Yatra, which had been published as a novel by that time. My grandmother called me to Puja Palace and made me sit down on a stool. She gave me a gift for frock materials. Then she did something unusual. So she bent down and touched my feet. I was surprised and taken aback. Elders never touched the feet of youngsters. Where we have always touched my feet, the feet of God, elders and teachers. We consider that as mark of respect. It is a great traditional, but today the reverse had happened. It was not correct. She said, I am touching the feet of a teacher, not my granddaughters. A teacher who taught me so well with so much of appreciation that I can read any novel confidently in such a short period. Now I am independent. It is my duty to respect teachers. It is not written in our scriptures that a teacher should be respected irrespective of the gender and age. I did return Namaskar to her by touching her feet and gave my gift to my first student. She opened it and read immediately the title Kashi Yatra by Triveni and the publisher's name. I knew then that my student had a passion with flying colors. Okay, सुधा मूर्ति राइटर हैं इस स्टोरी के. Sudha Murthy was born in 1950 in Sigon in North Karnataka, a prolific writer in Kannada. She has written several short stories. Her stories deal with common lives and human values such as courtesy and kindness and self-realization.